Good morning to everybody. It's great to see a lot of your faces. Some of you, I know, got kids running around in the back or making coffee, so you haven't turned on your videos just yet. But as Cameron mentioned, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, but primarily I'm a CEO, I'm a business owner. And for the last 10 years, I've run a design and innovation lab called Altivex. And in our conversation today, what I'd really love to talk about is really what we've been implementing as a business in times like this. And even though I'm a tech entrepreneur and that's what we do as a build business and we build solutions, we build mobile applications, I really don't want to talk about tech too much today. What I'd rather do is talk about an approach to technology and particularly in innovation and what that means right now. Because I think right now, especially, it's a big buzzword. We're all being told that because of the coronavirus, because of COVID-19, that it's the perfect time to innovate our businesses and our business models. But particularly in the event space or any business space, it's actually quite challenging. It's quite difficult to really figure out what exactly that means. So that's really what I want to talk about today. So the first thing I'm actually going to ask you guys to do before I go to my first slide is, what does innovation actually mean to you? What does that word mean, and why is it so intimidating? So drop it in the comments, drop it in the chat, and we'll see what you guys feel about that as we go. And as you're doing that, I really want to jump into my very first slide, which is a little bit intimidating as well. And it's really one of my favorite quotes by one of the biggest innovators and disruptors that I really look up to, and that's Iron Mike Tyson. And he's got this quote I love so much, and it says, "Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face." And it's a little bit aggressive. It's a little bit rough. But I think now more than ever, each and every one of us is feeling this, right? We all had amazing plans for 2020, right? We thought that we'd be hosting many events. As a speaker, I thought, I had my event calendar booked out. Everything was full. As a business, we had so many plans for growth. We had planned into moving into new offices. And then all of this happened. And over the last 7-8 weeks, things have changed drastically. I mean, ourselves as a business, we've lost over 12 million Rand in business just in the last 7 weeks. So we went from having an amazing year to really kind of going into panic mode. So this quote by Mike Tyson really rings true and is something that we all need to understand, is that we all had plans. We all had goals in mind. We all had these things that we were working on. But the world, faster than ever before, can throw your plans and punch you in the face, right? So how do we then adapt to that? And for me, it's really by understanding what innovation actually means, right? And so some of you have dropped some comments in here. I'm just going to read a couple of them really quick. It means not improving, it's creating something new, adaptability and resilience, staying ahead, thinking differently, constantly creating change, creating something that has value, deliberate application of information. So some of you have been reading my slides, but I appreciate it. It's great comments here. What I really want us to understand is that it's great to list a lot of these things, but how many of us are actually innovating in our businesses, of trying to improve, of creating something new, thinking differently? They all sound nice to kind of put the definition to, but it's really not that easy to implement. So what I want to chat about this morning is how we can implement these things in our business. And the very first thing that I really wanted us to do is really define more specifically what innovation is. And in my definition, innovation is the process by which we change the world, right? It's translating an idea into something that creates value, which one of the people mentioned here is innovation is not just innovating for the sake of innovating. It's just breaking the status quo just to do so. It's really to create value. And most importantly, innovating in your business and in your life is implementing something that's easier, better, different. That's it. It's that simple. It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. If anything you take away from this session today is I want you to remember that the simpler the innovation, the more innovative it actually is. So easier, better, and different. And the next thing I want to tell you is what innovation actually isn't. Innovation, firstly, is not a buzzword. I think a lot of times we hear about innovating, but saying you're innovative and being innovative is two different things. We worked with the bank a few years ago, and they hired us to make them the most innovative bank in South Africa. And it was an amazing brief. We're excited as a team. We think we're going to be able to implement all these new ideas and these new concepts. And what we found out after 3 months is all they wanted was a new website. They didn't actually want to be the most innovative brand in South Africa. So being innovative and saying you're innovative is two different things. The second thing is that innovation is not just technology. A lot of times when we hear, hey, let's be innovative, we think that we have to create something brand new, that we need to build an application, that we need to launch a new solution. And that's not actually what it is. And I'm going to touch on that in a couple of slides. The next thing is that it's not really about replication. Oftentimes, especially in times like this, we look into what's happening elsewhere in the world, and we say, okay, they're doing this in Silicon Valley, they're doing this in Canada, they're doing this in Asia. Let's replicate and bring that here and do the exact same thing. Innovation has to be contextual. We have to understand the situation that we're in, the consumers that we're facing, how we're responding to COVID-19 is very different than other countries are responding. And the demographics that we have here, and even in the 154 people on this call, are very different than any place in the world. And so we have to understand that. The next thing is that innovation is really not about being first, is that in understanding this is that when you innovate, it's not always about being the very first person to have a big idea. Steve Jobs and Apple Computer were not the first company on earth to create an MP3 player, right? They were just really the first to combine that technology and tell an amazing story about how you could fit 1,000 songs in your pocket. But they weren't the first to launch an MP3 player by any means. The next thing is that innovation is not outsourced. Now more than ever, you really have to understand that your team collectively has to learn how to innovate together, which I'm also going to speak about in a moment. And so it's not about a top-down approach or a bottom-up approach. It's something that all of you and your entire business have to combine and partner on together as a combined problem-solving team. And then the last thing is that innovation is not fail-proof. One of my favorite words that was kind of coined by Da Vinci, which was, Leonardo da Vinci, one of the greatest minds on earth, a polymath. He was a scientist, a mathematician, an artist, an architect, and he had a word called dimostrazione. Dimostrazione. So when you speak Italian, you got to do this with your hands. Those of you who are on video, put your hands up, right? Dimostrazione, all right? And dimostrazione means exactly what it sounds like, demonstration. But it's actually the act of growing through rapid experimentation and failure. So if you want to innovate and practice dimostrazione, you have to understand that innovating in your business means failure is going to happen, and that's okay. The faster we experiment, the faster we fail, the better the solve and the solution that we're going to build. So if the greatest mind, arguably of all time, said that was his key to success, it's certainly something that we should be implementing in our business. So what then? We now know what innovation isn't. We've tried to kind of quell the myths about it. And really what I want to talk about is the three things that I believe that we've tried to implement as a business as Altivix in an approach to innovating. Because I want you, as you walk away from here, to have tangible steps on what to go do, right? Because it's great to talk about what the opportunities are and where things are going, but I think it's really also important to figure out, okay, cool, now that I'm on Zoom, the lockdown isn't ending anytime soon. We'll be at stage 4 tomorrow, hopefully stage 3 soon after, but who knows, right? Because I want you to know exactly what to do while you're still at Zoom speaking to your teams. And it's 3 S's. It's solve, simplify, and scale. All right. It's all innovating is in your business. So the very first thing I want you to do is solve a problem. All right. That's what innovation is rooted in. Is, again, you have to think about the context that you're in. Instead of replicating and saying, hey, let's solve something people are doing elsewhere. What are we in right now? What challenges are we facing specifically in our individual businesses right now? Right? So what are the biggest challenges your customers, your community, and your employees are facing right now? All right? And not trying to solve absolutely every single problem. Because right now, as mentioned, it's super intimidating. Everything is overwhelming. We've lost events. We've lost money. We've lost revenue. We've lost briefs from clients, sponsorship, everything. We can't solve it all. So what are the most basic problems that you can solve right now for your customers, for your employees, and for the community that you speak to? And then lastly is that Innovating, again, is really about value. It's not always about the bottom line. It's really about how can you create value. So for your consumers right now, for your customers, if they can trust you for being a value creator in the event space, right? Events, as we know it, as Alex mentioned, have kind of gone out the door. They've gone out the window. But how can we still keep people engaged? How can we still keep people informed? And how can we still answer their questions? That's what events are for. That's their main purpose. So if we go back to that and take it away from maybe the physical touch points that we used to get used to, that's the very first step of innovating. The next thing is simplifying. All right. So we want to solve a problem. The next thing we want to do is simplify the situation. Apple Computer is one of the brands that's done a great job at that. Innovation does not have to be hyper technical, right? As a tech entrepreneur, as a tech builder, as a developer, I'm not going to tell you to call me right now, right? To build a solution for you. You actually don't need one. It's amazing that we've got 155 people all gathered together here on this call, being able to engage and share with one another. So the technology kind of exists, right? I don't want to sell you an application today or tomorrow because you actually don't need one. Right? Innovation is about using the available resources that you have and that are pretty cheap. If you think about it, this call that we're on really costs all of us nothing, right? There's a little bit of data, it's a little bit away from your bandwidth, but it's really not costing us anything from a monetary standpoint, right? Your Netflix binge watching that you're going to do after this is certainly going to chow your data a whole lot more than this. Right? So it doesn't have to be a huge technical solution. And I know Cameron's going to speak in a little bit about what available solutions are out there. Right? But the second thing is that for innovation and technology to work, the simpler that it is, the better. And I love the life hack videos that are on Facebook and BuzzFeed that pop up that say the 5 easy ways to do this, the 5 simplest ways to cut a pineapple or watermelon. And I love those things because it's not about rebuilding how we approach fruit, right? And coming up with some robotic machine that's powered by AI to then slice fruit this way. It's saying, hey, this is the simplest way and easiest way if you're a parent to cut a pineapple for your kids or a watermelon for your kids to eat it, right? So the simpler, the better. The next thing I wanted to tell you is an African proverb, and it says, how do you eat an elephant, right? And it's one bite at a time. Right now, we've got an elephant of problems and things to solve for. You're not going to be able to tackle all of it. You're not going to be able to do it all today. So how do you handle that? One bite at a time, all right? One step at a time. And then lastly, to close out how we simplify is that if you can achieve these 6 words, with your customers, with your employees, with your staff, with the people that you speak to. I never thought about that before. That's it. That's all. That's your standard for innovating, is if you can get someone to say, I never thought about that before. I never looked at it in that way. I didn't realize that it could be that simple and that iterative. That's what we've done to succeed. Then the next thing is, how do we go here? Where do we go next? And we go to scale. And I know there's been a lot of talk about what exponential thinking is, and that's a whole nother conversation. So I don't want to delve too much about that because I'm sure that you've heard it. But one thing I love about technology is that it moves exponentially. Technology will be the fastest, cheapest, easiest way that we reach our audiences. As mentioned again, this is the easiest way that we can get 155 people in a room from 155 different locations. Technology is the way we do so. So speaking even to some of the solutions that Alex pointed out, is the only way that we're going to be able to grow in this phase and in this era is by using the tools available to us. So to scale innovation, you have to use technology, and that's where technology comes in. It's always going to be the way that you reach the most people in the quickest period of time. I'm going to skip over what 10X vision and planning is, but the third thing that I'm going to say is that it's really about rapid experimentation, right? In order to scale exponentially, you have to be able to test an idea, launch an idea, and then push it. You know, what I love about the series, and if you guys have been available since the very first series that we started in terms of this, in this mastermind, is that the team at USB have kind of rapidly experimented and tried different things. If you were part of the very first mastermind to the second one to where we are today, the format has changed, the structure has changed, and the way we've flown with the different speaker has changed. And that's exactly what this is right now more than ever, you've got the privilege and opportunity to try different things. Your customers, your employees are all open to learning different things right now. They're all saying, yeah, you know what? It's okay. Try something different. because we got nothing to lose. Things are different right now. Things are harder than ever before. So you've got an opportunity to shift the conversation. So rapid experimentation, the dimostrazione that we talked about, is now a tool that you have to use. And then to close it out, right? To just give a couple more tangible steps to where we go. The very first thing I want you guys to do as you walk away from here is I want you to embrace uncertainty, right? And I say this even before crisis hits, right? This is standard practice of business, is that we don't always know where we're going to go and what's going to happen next. But now more than ever, that's hit, right? So embrace the uncertainty. It's okay, right? We don't have to have it all figured out. The second thing I want you to do is I want you to make innovation routine, right? And what I mean by that is I want that to be a daily practice for all of your businesses and your teams, right? Is in your team, you should be asking yourselves, hey guys, where can we simplify? Hey guys, how can we solve this cheaper? How can we use the current resources that we have? How can we solve a problem without spending any money? Right? Just to make things a little bit more efficient, a little bit faster, or take the assets that we have and repackage them. The next thing is involve your team, is involve everybody in your team to do so. Again, it's not top down or bottom up. Everyone has to be involved in that process. And we need to incentivize it quite frankly, to say, hey, let's all participate in this together. Right? The next thing that I want you guys to do is to listen. All right. If you remember a couple years ago, there was a video going around of a young boy speaking to his mom, and he was getting in trouble with his mom. And he was like, Linda, listen. He had his hands on his hips, and he's like, listen, Linda, listen. Right. And that's what I want you guys to do right now to your customers, is I want you to listen to them. Right? Is that right now more than ever, you can literally you've got the time and the energy and the bandwidth to pick up the phone and speak to every single one of your customers and ask them what their biggest pain points are, to hit the reset button and forget everything that we asked about, we offered them before, the way we offered solutions, but really just say, hey, what are you dealing with right now? So I want you to firstly to listen. The next thing that I want you to do is I want you to experiment. We talked about this a lot, just the active dimostrazione. Instead of implementing the ideas that we've learned, implementing the way we've done events, the way we've done business, the way we've done our business model, I want you to try new things, all right? You got nothing to lose. The markets are down. This is the time that we can take hold of to shift and to change the conversations. So I want you to focus on experimenting rather than implementing. And then the last thing that I want you to do is to build adjacent, right? And I mean building adjacent to technology. And it's the premise of the book that I wrote. And it's a whole nother conversation that we can have. But really the basic premise is there's enough technology and solutions that exist in the world right now. Innovating is not about reinventing the wheel and creating something new. Innovating is really about using the tools and solutions that already exist and repurposing them to solve your problems. So as you walk away from here, is I want you to understand that not everything has to happen today, and you don't have to solve for everything today. And just my last slide, and it's one of my favorite quotes just to close us out. And it says, brands that evolve the present are involved in the future. All right. Now more than ever is an opportunity for us to evolve. Right? The world has literally shut down. Business has completely changed. Mindsets have completely shifted. We're all struggling. So in order for you to position yourself for growth, for actually just even survival in the next coming months, in the next coming year, is that you need to evolve the market right now. You need to evolve your business model just a little bit, incrementally. You need to evolve your offering just a little bit. And that's how you're going to stay here going forward in the future. So much appreciated to all of you. I wish you all the best. But just remember, the simpler the solution, the more innovative it will be. And implement that today. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.